Welcome back everyone to another video. Today we're gonna do the wall hold, we're gonna do a wall jump, and we're gonna add a wall slide feature which also spawns some particles. And of course, after wall jumping you can also do your normal jump, and you will also be able to hold against these kind of platforms. So by the end of this tutorial you will be able to make a wall jump, a wall hold, or wall slide. Of course, we add the respective animations which I created from the available animations. You can download them below in the description. And we will also add a particle effect to the sliding, so you can also get an idea on how to add particle effects to your code. That being said, let's jump right into it. So we're back in the project, and before we start, of course, we have to change the level a little bit to make an area for the wall jump. And another thing, of course, which I notice is these platforms, I can't jump through them from below, which of course is a choice, but I would also like to change that. So let's change the map a little bit and let's set up an area for wall jumping and also changing the platforms. Let's first go with the platforms. Music start. All right, now that I have the new platforms there, I also want to make sure that they're on the player layer like this. And I want to put them behind. I want the player to jump in front of them. And what I'm going to add here is of course, a collider 2D, which is then, of course, again, the Tilemap collider 2D. I'm going to add the composite collider as well, 2D. And this adds a rigid body, which I have to put to static. Thank you very much. The Tilemap collider is used by the compositor, by composite collider, and the composite collider is used by an effector. And I'm going to add an effector, a platform effector. And now I can jump from, let's say, from the downside through the platform, but when I come from up, I won't fall through. So that should work. So now let's make a wall jump area as well. And for that, of course, we're going to go to the ground layer again. Don't forget to change. This is important. And on the ground layer, I'm just gonna paint some walls now. All right, that looks fair enough for a wall jump area, if you ask me. Of course, I could have put them a little bit more apart from each other or not, but please have a look at that by yourself, however you would like to have it, and make sure this is, of course, the ground area, and within the platforms, we have now the platform areas. All right, so now let's make the wall jump. So before we go into the code, let's add some new animations to our character because we want to have a wall hold and also a wall jump. And the wall hold will be when he's just holding the wall or sliding down. And then we have a jump when he jumps up. All right, so for that, we're just gonna go here, and I actually created two new images from the available images. So I'll just put a download link. You can download them if you like. I'm just gonna copy them in here. I also added here some shoes upgrade, which we will check in a later tutorial. But for now, let's just then go to the animation of the player. I'm going to create a new clip, and let's call this a wall hold. And in the wall hold, just going to do this player clinch. There we go. If we look here now and we press play, he's like holding the wall. Great, and then we're going to create one more jump, and let's call this wall jump. And this one is just like jumping up. Great, so in the animator we now have then two new animations here, and it's a wall hold and a wall jump, and let's already make here some transitions. There we go. And what we want to add here are once a bool, and let's call this one wall hold. And let's also add a float, which is the y velocity. There we go. And what we want to do is for the wall hold, there's no exit time. Let's make sure to drag this here. That's fine. And the wall hold, we're gonna say is grounded is false, and wall hold is true. Oops. And make a transition, and this transition here has exit time. Yeah, it doesn't really matter because it's only one frame. And here we just put is grounded true. Also here transition, also we're gonna put is grounded true, is grounded true. But for the wall jump, I want to add the same premises, is grounded is false. So wall hold is also true, but also the velocity, the y velocity is greater than, let's say, 1. So he's jumping up. Great, that should be okay then for the, there we go, the animator should be fine like this. And we're gonna connect the animator later then by the code. And what I want to do shortly is to get my player character and just put it near the wall so we can actually test it a little bit earlier, later. There, and I hope I didn't, he fits through there. Yeah, it should be fine. So let me just put him here so we can go into testing later. Let's get into the code. So we're back in the play controller. And let's go here below the jumping floats. Let's add here wall jump stuff. And we want to add several things. First of all, I want to add a public bool. And this bool is not really being used right away, but I want to use it later to activate wall jumping or not. So, and let's put it false by default. So can wall jump is false, or let's of course put it now true so we can test. And the idea is to unlock this later by picking up, let's say, those shoes or some upgrade ability. Now we will need a public float of wall sliding speed. And by default, I'm going to put here minus 0.45 frames. And you will see later what this does. I'm also going to add a public float for vertical wall force. So that means jumping up, and we're going to set this later. So this is the force on which you can jump from the wall. We're going to make a public float for the wall jump time. So this is the timer which allows you how long this force will be added to the player. Then I'm going to add a couple more bools. Public bool is touching the wall. So we're going to make another, let's say, similar like the ground check. We're going to make a wall check bool. We also want to have a bool. Oops, sorry. Public bool wall hold. And also a bool, sorry again, public bool of wall jumping. Actually, these don't have to be public at all, they can just be bools. Then, of course, for the wall check, we also want to have a public transform then, similar to the ground check, and let's call this the wall check. And we also, this is optional, totally optional. I want to add some dust particles the moment when you slide. So I'm just going to add a public particle system dust. And why I'm adding this, I just want to show you a little bit the possibility on what you can do with those particle systems in the code. Right, that's the particle system. So now let's write the code for the wall jump. And we want to do this in the upgrade function. There's a start, there's an upgrade function. And perhaps let's make this one. This was the variable jump height. So we keep it a little bit sorted. And let's add here then wall jump. And in general, we will start then if can wall jump is true, then only then we access this code. So if this is not true, we won't access this at all. And first of all, let's do a, let's say, surrounding check again, as on where the wall actually is. So is touching wall is physics 2D. And here we're going to also do the overlap circle. And then the overlap circle is the wall check dot position. And we still have to add that, of course. And the float radius, so the radius of the circle, we can just use the ground check circle again, or we add a new float. So this is up to you. But here we can just do the ground check circle. And what are we looking for? Which layer mask? This is again the what is ground. There we go. And then if is touching wall is true, and also is grounded is false, so I do here the exclamation mark, which makes it a negative. Is grounded is false, and input direction, the input direction is not 0, so negative from 0, meaning, so I'm pushing against the wall, then the wall hold will be true. So I'm going to call this wall hold is then true. Then we want an else function. Wall hold is false. Whoops. There we go. And of course we have to make here only one is. And now we have to define what the wall hold is doing if wall hold is true. So here is if wall hold there, then we want to, of course, change the velocity of the player so that it actually sticks to the wall. RB velocity, new factor 2, RB dot velocity dot x doesn't change. And now we need a math clamp. So we're gonna, let's say, mathf dot clamp. We're gonna fix the floats in a specific, let's say, between specific values, and the float values are rb dot velocity dot y minus wall sliding speed, which we defined earlier, and then we set a max float dot max value. So this is the first part of the code with which you can wall hold. Let's shortly go back in Unity and let's add this, let's say this wall check as well. So we have here a ground check already. Let's duplicate this and let's call this the wall check. There we go. And what we can do is now drag this, so pretty much maybe somewhere here. Seems fine. And of course here in the player controller for this ground check we have then something, and there's the wall check, and let's drag in there the wall check, and later we can also drag in the particle system. Now you don't see any circle here. This is of course because in the code we didn't add this yet. What you can do here is of course just copy this line here, and let's do wall check dot position ground check circle, and now you can see here will be the wall check. Pretty much with this done, you can already wall hold, and let's have a short look at this. And as you can see, it's sticking nicely to the wall. Of course, I can't jump or do anything else. I can actually just hold it, let go. When I just press towards the wall, it will just hold and stay in its position, and otherwise it will drop. So let's also make the other section of the code. So let's get back in our code, and we were here. And in this case, we want to define the wall jump, and we're going to do this by if input, there we go, get button down, and here we want to have the jump button, and wall hold is true, then wall jump would be true. Wall jumping is true. And to set it wrong after a second, we will make a small function in a bit. But let's first write here, if wall jumping is true, then we want to add the rb.velocity is new factor 2, and the rb.velocity.x stays the same. We don't mess with that. And we add vertical wall force. And now I'm getting a funny system numerics error. And I just want to remove this system numerics there. So this arrow is gone because we want to have this factor 2 of the Unity engine. And he added system numerics because I added some math F clamp, but it will still work even without that. So we also want to, let's say, set the wall jumping to false. And for that, I'm just going to add here a small piece of line. And let's also say here wall jump stuff so that we can easily find it again. And this is a private void set wall jumping to false. There we go. And what I want to do here is wall jumping is false. That's one. But what I also want to do here, so this is the moment I jump on the wall, I also want to give back an available jump so that once I jump away from the wall, I can jump once more. So what I'm going to do is available jumps left. I'm just going to do plus plus there. And now let's go back to the update statement where we were here. So the moment when wall jumping is true, I want to, let's say, invoke, and then this then set wall jumping to false. False. Thank you very much. And this is then after the wall jump time, which you will set in the expector. And invoke, of course, has to be with a capital. So there was a slight mistake in the code. It has to be a small s. So this is the typical, very annoying. Let's just clear the console shortly. Try again. And of course, we have here a jump timer, so we can say it only jumps like 0.2 seconds. And vertical wall force should be something similar to the jump force, perhaps. I'm just going to set 10. And as you can see, if I now press here, I can pretty much stick to the walls. And I can jump up the walls. There we go. But I cannot slide down yet. And I would like to control my downward slide also by a piece of code. And we're going to do this also here. Again, doing, oops, not this, not off, if input. And this time I'm doing the get key function. And I'm going to go key code, down arrow. There we go. And wall hold is true. Then I set the wall sliding speed is 3 frames. Else wall sliding speed is minus 0.45 frames. And the 0.5 frames is pretty much based on, let's say, the weight or the rigid body of the player. And for me, this works. So perhaps you have to play around with it a bit to make it stick. And as you can see earlier, we didn't have any animation. So we also should set up this shortly. And so let's go to the animator part. Go down here, yes. And we want here animator, set bool. And what we had was wall hold, I believe. Manga is wall hold. This one. And we want to set the animator dot set float. There it is. And this was, I believe, y velocity or speed. Velocity, I believe. And this is just the rb dot velocity dot y. Now let's shortly cross-check this. See, there is an error because I didn't put this. But let's shortly go to the animator just to make sure that those pools were the right name. Wall hold, yeah, it's the wall hold, and y velocity. All right, so these will be now updated by this code as well. So let's see if it works. So the animation is not working, but I can wall slide now downwards. I can jump up. And the reason why the animation is not working is because if you go to the animator here and you press any state, we see that the jump state with this very simple is grounded as false takes, of course, always the first place. And here you can actually just change the order. So perhaps let's put the wall jump at the top, then the wall hold, and then the jump. If we now save this and try again, we can see he's now holding, and then jumping. And then in between, he's making these nice flips, which is pretty cool. And where is actually, you can see where is the, so he's also holding this quite nicely. He's sliding down a little bit, so you might have to tune this one code a little bit, or you can also just leave it like that. It's up to you. And let's see now also this here area. Well, there we also made a mistake because the platforms have to be, of course, on the layer ground. That's also cool. Now they are also grounded. And what you could do now here is go up, climb up. Oops. Thought I'll get one more jump. And this is then the time where you can really go into the player and try to debug a little bit. So we can see available jumps. If I jump here one, I get one more jump. So if I go here, I jump once. You see I have available jumps left. I can jump for free once. I can jump once more. That's pretty cool. And especially if you also have the double jump, then this makes totally sense. All right, so now the only thing left would be some dust particles the moment you slide down. And for that, let's just make a small particle system first. Effects, particle systems, and let's make it wall slide, dust, or whatever you like. Call it whatever you like, because we don't want to be in debug mode. We want to be in the normal mode. And I'm just going to fast forward this and then look at the end result. All right, I made a very simple particle system, so please have a look if you want to copy it. What's important is that the duration is very short. I'm not putting looping because I'm just going to restart the particle system like every couple of seconds the moment you start sliding. And then emission, I put a box, so it should be in the area in front of the hands and legs, so it's like entering there like randomly. The other things I left open for now, but of course you can fine tune however you like to make it. I just want to show you the general concept, and what we're going to do is we're going to go to the player and we're just going to drag in this wall particle dust particle system. Let's go into the code and let's make here a next to wall jump stuff, let's make here a private, no, not a private, let's make a void and let's call it create dust And the only thing we do here is dust.play. And I'm not sure if you remember, but what we made earlier was at the beginning, where was it? The wall jump stuff. We made a public particle system dust, and it only plays. And when we go now here to the wall sliding or going down, we can just do create dust. And we will only do this. But with this principle, you can also, of course, doing your running or let's say your jumping, you can add similar particle effects. But also for those things, I would show you in another tutorial how to add that in the animation tab. So in the animation tab, we can also add particles and sounds. So let's have a look at the final result. I just noticed one small mistake, that this is on the Z, on the minus. That's why you always have to reset your transforms. We always learn something. And let's have a look at the final result. Wall jump works fine. We can also jump, of course, between the walls, and we will get the additional wall, additional jump available after we've jumped. And we can also now hang on these platforms, which is pretty cool. And of course, the particles which we made earlier are also working. So sliding down will now spawn these particles, which is pretty cool. Of course, the color was perhaps not the best one, but you can, of course, play around with that and then easily make your game cooler. So I hope this helped you. Thank you all for watching. And in the next episode, I will try to make a small upgrade system. So meaning that at the beginning, you can only do a single jump. You pick up an item, you will be able to double jump. You pick up these shoes or whatever to wall jump. And I'm just going to make a very simple system on how you can control that. So thank you all for watching and see you in the next one. Cheers.